Yeah, I'm fine. I'll put my glasses on next time. Hava, Hava, Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah. 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 Hava.
Hava Nashira, sing unto God a new song. And as we begin this Shabbat together, I wanted to share maybe not a song, but a poem which has been turned into a song from the Israeli poet Chaim Nachman Bialik. Hachama merosh ha'ilanot nistalka, boi v'netze likrat Shabbat hamalka. Hine hi yoredet hakedusha habarucha, ve'ima melachim tzva shalom umenucha, boi hamalka, boi hakala, shalom alechem malachei hashalom. The sun on the treetops no longer is seen. Come and gather to welcome the Shabbat, our queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her the angels of peace and rest. Draw near and here abide, draw near, O Shabbat bride. Peace also to you, you angels of peace. I am Rabbi Eliza McCarroll, the assistant here at Holy Blossom Temple. This is Cantor David Rosen. We welcome all of you in this Mishkan, in peace and in joy, in the Shabbat spirit, whether you are here with us physically or joining us online. As we bring in Shabbat together, we pray for peace and rest and begin on page 105 with Yedid Nefesh.
ידיד נפש אב הרחמן משוכבתך לרצונך ירוץ עבדך כמו החייל ישתחווה מול הררך כי ירב לו ידידותך מנופץ ובכל טעם יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה לה יא לה הדור נאה זיו העולם נפשי יכולות אהבתך הנעלה רפא נהלה בחרונה נועם ציווך אז תתחזק ותתרפא וחייתה לך שפחת עולם יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה לה
We welcome in the Shabbat, Boi HaMalka, Boi HaShabbat, with the lighting of candles, and we especially welcome anyone who maybe has someone that they wish, or something that they wish to celebrate today, whether it is a special event or whether you just have not been back in our sanctuary with us in a while. I would also like to invite up Barbara Thalhodes to help light the candles with us on this side, and anybody else who would like to join us can light these lights at the table as well. So we particularly encourage those, again, if you have not been back for a while, with light being a symbol of warmth and welcome.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy at all. Yeah. The more, the merrier, the more Shabbat spirit, the better. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Lechon eranena, ya elai elai elai, la aronai, ya elai elai elai, nahariha, ya elai elai elai, letzur yishenu, ya elai elai. אללי, כי אל גדול אדוני, ומלך גדול על כל אלוהים, אשר בידו מחקרי ארץ, ותועבות הרים לו. לכו נרננה, יאי לי 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 לארוני, יאי לי 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 נהריה, יאי לי 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 לצור ישנו, לי 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 יאי לי אשר לא הים והוא עשהו, ויבש את ידיו ויצרו, בואו נשתחווה ונכרע, נברכה לפני אדוני הוסינו, כי הוא אלוהינו ואנחנו אמריתו וצאן ידו, היומים בקולו תשמעו. In the middle of page 111, Psalm 98, Zamru Ladonai Bichinor. Zamru Ladonai, Zamru Ladonai Bichinor, Zamru Ladonai Bichinor v'kol zimra, yai lai 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 yai lai lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 b'chatzot rod b'chol shofar harihu lifnei hamelech Adonai, harihu lifnei hamelech Adonai, Yeram hayam umlo tevel veyoshveva, necharot imcha uchav yachad harim yeranenu, necharot imcha uchav yachad harim yeranenu. Yai lai la lai 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 la lai 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 yai lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 lifnei Adonai, lifnei Adonai keval yishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel betzedek ve'amim b'mesharim, yishpot tevel betzedek ve'amim b'mesharim. Yai lai la lai, yai lai lai la lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, lai 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 yai.
We turn to page 115 for Lecha Dodi, welcoming in the presence of Shabbat.
Lecha Dodi likrat kahla pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kahla pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diborecha yishmi'anu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem ol tiferet v'lithilah. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechul v'necha ki mekor haberacha. Merosh mikdem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava techila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Hitorri, hitorri, ki va'orech komi ori. Uri, uri, shir taperi, kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Bohi v'shalom ateret bahala gam b'simcha u'tzola. Toch emunei am segula. Bohi chala, Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela.
We now turn to the Baruch Hu blessing, which is our moment of asking ourselves, are we ready to pray? And it also divides our Kabbalat Shabbat, our welcoming psalms, our welcoming songs from our Ma'ariv service. So think of this as the moment between which we distinguish between our regular week and the Shabbat, as we too get ready to pray and get ready for the Shabbat. We are on page 119, and we rise if you are able and comfortable.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 ya.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, bechokma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, vechoshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uven layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נהגה יומם בלילה ועבדתך לתסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם
All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone are our God, there is none else, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign. You deliver us from the hands of oppressors and save us from the fists of tyrants. You do wonders without number, marvels that surpass our understanding. You give us our life. By your help we survive all who seek our destruction. You did wonders for us in the land of Egypt, miracles and marvels in the land of Pharaoh. You led your people Israel out, ever to serve you in freedom. When your children witnessed your power, they extolled you and gave you thanks. Willingly they enthroned you, and, full of joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang this song.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא. עושה פלא, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, מלכותך רבנך, בוקי הים לפני משה, זה לי ענו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגיהלום יד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
As we sit in this shelter of peace, the Shabbat, I just wanted to bring our attention to the footnote or the side note on page 126 from our Zohar. On Shabbat, a shelter of peace is spread over the world, which is thereby protected on all sides. All beings are at peace in both the upper and the lower spheres. We pray for peace. Praised are you, Adonai, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי Shabbat Shabbat vayinafesh v'shameru bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם לדורותם ברית עולם יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה ויעלמה יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיים יתברך וישתבח ויתבר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמר קודשם בריחו ליהלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה da miran melma vimeru anna na 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 Adonai anna na 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 svatai tiftah na 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 ufiaki tehilatecha na 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 Adonai na 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 svatai tiftah na 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 ufiaki tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי עבוד, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומרום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל HaKadosh.
We continue with the meditations of our hearts, the prayers of our own minds, until we meet again on page 135.
Shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, se shalom, hu yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru amen. Se shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom. Se shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom.
With prayer being a salve in our lives, a way of inviting healing into our hearts, we turn our hearts towards our land acknowledgement to those with whom we need healing and truth and reconciliation with. We acknowledge that we at Holy Blossom Temple are hosted on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, the Ojibwe Chippewa, and the Huron-Wendat peoples. Under the dish with one spoon and two-row wampum belt covenant, many Indigenous nations agreed to peaceably share and care for the land and welcomed others, including us, to do the same. This land is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit and Métis peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, while understanding that the signatories to that treaty were not in positions of equal power, and that these treaties contributed to the problematic history of settlement that we together are challenged to confront and challenged to help heal. We are grateful for the opportunity to gather on this land and strengthen our community together. We, as the Holy Blossom Temple family, also this week turn our minds to those within our own community who are in need of healing, including the following: Johanna Falk, Chana bat Gittel, Sarah Leah bat Moshe Meah v'Naomi, Miriam bat Binyamin v'Sarah Leah, Friedja Mama, Joel Sears, Levi Gross, Sima bat Chaim v'Chaye Sarah, Gital Yaakova bat Shmuel v'Sara, Daniel ben Baruch v'Resa, David Sandler, Rabbi Dov Mama, Samantha Tylee Beda, Moshe Gershon ben Borach Shalom Chaim v'Ruchel Leah, Miriam bat Chaim v'Fruma, and Arish Solomon Gegel. If there are names of anybody else that you would wish to share or even to repronounce so that we can include them in our prayers, I now invite you to do so. A refuah shlema to each one as we join together for the Mishaberach Lecholim on page 137.
Mishaberach imotenu Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach avotenu Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed are you, O God, who makes hope and healing possible. I now invite up my friend, my colleague, our rabbi and teacher, Rabbi Sam Kay.
Thank you, Rabbi McCarroll. Thank you, Cantor Rosen. Beautiful tefillah tonight. So wonderful to see so many people in our Mishkan tonight. So beautiful to hear your voices and this lovely music that we've been having together. It is so good to be together, almost as if that is the theme of the Parsha this week. And yet, something you will almost certainly learn about me very quickly is that I have a deep love for Hasidic tales and Hasidic teachings, especially the teachings of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdechev. And my own teacher, who was also named and is also named Rav Levi, spent many hours teaching me about Rav Levi Yitzchak's sense of intense justice, the moral core which made him question the world around him, and also famously allowed him to hold God accountable for the pain that the people of Israel were going through in his own generation. But Rav Levi Yitzchak's greatest strength, according to my teacher, the other Rabbi Levi, was that his overwhelming thirst for justice was always tempered with love, and that the failures of the world are never an invitation to turn away from it, but rather an opportunity to believe in the ultimate potential for goodness and that one day things may yet be made right. And so, the teachings of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak are often two-toned. The first is the ask, the demand of the world, of the people, of God, to live up to our obligations and responsibilities. And also, this is the second piece, to point out the light, the literal sparks of the divine hidden in the world that can be found in the most challenging and most minor of places. And as a result, he reads this week's Torah portion, Parshat Balak, with a rather unique lens, because he has no interest in talking about talking donkeys or invisible angels or blessings and curses. And instead, he digs simply into the scene setting, the narrative tidbit which begins the Parsha, something that many of us, myself included, simply roll on through. His drash begins, Moab feared the people greatly, for they were many. Moab abhorred the children of Israel. Rav Levi Yitzchak identifies and then bisects, arguing that when the Torah says Moab feared the people, one should not read it as synonymous with that later statement, the children of Israel. The people that Moab fears are the mixed multitudes who have joined up with the original Israelites, which is a reminder that everywhere the Israelites went on their journeys, from their very first moment in Egypt up through the winding wilderness, and now as they get to the banks of the Jordan River, the Israelites are no longer just the descendants of Jacob. They are also the friends and the converts and the Gerim which make up all of Am Yisrael. And this gathering of souls and identities in all of its diversity, this is the people that Moab is afraid of. This is the many. And when Moab hates the children of Israel, the literal descendants of Jacob, that is because we are a people who can and will and did welcome others into our society, to share with them our Torah, and to offer up an antidote to the brutal world of idolatry. And that sounds pretty good. As a one-off statement, it's very nice. It's actually a very sweet little pat on the back for the Jewish people, and a not so gentle reminder that we should probably always try to live up to that reputation and live up to being genuine and generous and welcoming, so that people will come to us and know our God and know our Torah of their own free will. But here's the kicker. Rav Levi Yitzchak does not end there. He actually goes one step further and says that the other reason why Moab is so afraid of these extra additions to Am Yisrael is because they are actually more proficient at, they are better at raising up holy sparks than the original Israelites. He quotes, "A person who is returning to God has an easier time uplifting the fallen sparks than someone who is, from birth, doing it already. And that is why Moab feared the people greatly, because the Gerim who had joined Israel, they were many, and they were especially talented at lifting up sparks." Which is to say that the king, the evil king Balak, is not only trying to quote-unquote protect his people in this interpretation from joining the Israelites en masse because people will join them, but he also is trying to protect them from the realization that they too could be living wonderful lives, creating light in the universe, if only they would simply cross sides. Rabbi Arthur Green, who is one of the great scholars of Hasidic Judaism alive today, points out that there are two secrets in this teaching. One is open, one is closed. The closed secret is, fascinatingly, at the time of its writing, that this is a condemnation of the Russian Empire. Russia had recently annexed a huge section of Poland, and as a result absorbed many Jews who previously had been forbidden into the country. Balak, writes Rabbi Green, in late 18th century eyes must have seemed very much like Russia, both fearing and hating the Jews who are now passing through its territory. And it also exposed, according to scholars, a long-held and seemingly irrational fear held by the Russian establishment that when Russian society would encounter the Jew, even the Russian Orthodox Church might be tempted to Judaize, might be tempted to flirt with Jewish tradition and Jewish wisdom, and might even convert to Judaism. That's the closed secret. And this is the open secret, says Green. In our own day, this is still true, that many people who are born children of Israel, which is to say born Jewish, are a little bit less enthusiastic about Judaism, the rituals and the mitzvot, than those who come to us and choose us as the expression of their soul. And that the hard work of lifting up sparks might still come easier to those who have chosen that mission for themselves, rather than viewing it as just the tradition. And I admit, I find his commentary quite provoking, but I'm not sure it's what the original author intended. Because as I mentioned above, this is as a teaching that has all the hallmarks of a classic Berditchever drasha, a drasha from Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. There's a call to the Moabites, whoever they are today, to embrace justice. There's a condemnation on the cruelty of the Russians. There's praise for the common person's potential to cause change in the world. And there's an invitation to anyone who hears this teaching, whether they are a new student, a stranger, or a disciple, that each of you can do your part in tikkun olam, in repairing the world, in lifting up sparks. And so it seems to me that rather than condemning those who have seemingly dismissed their Jewish tradition, as Green is implying, I think of this really as an open invitation. Because who knows? Maybe you too, no matter how much or how little Torah you might know, maybe you have exceptional skills as well at raising up sparks. Which brings me to my final commentator for the evening. Rabbi Shai Held of Hadar in New York City comments on this parsha that there are few things as damaging to a student of Torah than over-familiarity with the text. Over-familiarity is the greatest danger to a student of Torah. You become convinced that you already know everything. And when you are convinced of that, you become incapable of learning anything. To learn Torah, then, is to be animated by the sense of not yet knowing. It's a bit of a paradox there. To learn Torah, one must assume that one knows nothing about Torah. And this, one reasons, is perhaps why those wanderers were so very good at lifting up the sparks of light, even better than their neighbors, because it's much easier to accept and admit that I don't know yet when you haven't been born into something, when you discover it for yourself later in life, and when it becomes something you seek for yourself. I say all of these things with the caveat that it is easier, yes, but not necessarily impossible. Because each of us has the potential and the ability to look into the world and into our Torah with fresh eyes and the ability to have radical amazement. When we let go of the need to already know, we too can find perspective and inspiration. After all, this entire discussion stems from that one line, which, as I said, myself included, would have brushed over any other week as self-explanatory. And so as we enter into this Shabbat, it is my hope for all of us that this is the week where we set sparks flying with our curiosity, with our wonder, and with our faith. Each of us contains multitudes, and whether you have been coming to study and pray for years, for your entire life, or perhaps even if this is your very first night or somewhere in between, may this be the Shabbat that you need. Shabbat Shalom.
Yeshar Koach, and thank you for those words of Torah, Rabbi Kay. And as we think about repairing the world and the sparks of light that we can bring into it, we turn to a blessing about such topics, the Aleinu, as we rise on page 139.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גילוי ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated, even if for a moment. We now turn to sacred memory as we think on those who we have loved and lost, but who remain a presence of light in our lives. And if you are in a traditional period of mourning today, we would ask you to rise, that we may acknowledge you in community and be with you at this time. Today, the Holy Blossom Temple family remembers the following: Lynn Albert, Esther Auerbach, Jonas Bacher, Barry Bader, Samuel Bloomfield, Ethel Brunn, Debbie Cass, Albert Colt, Louis Crocker, Libby DeLuz, Henry Fleming, Erna Freund, Elaine Gebel, Louis Glate, Max Gold, Anne Goldstein, Mortimer Goodman, Charles Goodman, Nathan Griesman, Michael Herman, Irving Canner, Rachel Canner, Max Cates, Murray Cohen, Miriam Kolominsky, Irving Chris, Leslie Lowenthal, Marsha Margolis, Tilly Mason, Mervyn Mursky, Alex Mogilonsky, Morris Moranis, Arthur Morrow, Fanny Pentern, Ayeda Pentern, Emma Perlman, Gertrude Pollack, Pauline Rosen, Hank Rosen, Samuel Rosenberg, Ida Rubenstein Gittane, Charles Sanders, Joseph Schipper, Bella Shiner, Anne Schumacher, Bernard Simpkins, Percy Smith, Morris Stark, Joseph Sussman, Bina Mattel Tabak, Samuel Weisberg, Louis Wintrope, and Arthur Whitkin. We are also remembering those who have died most recently and whose families and loved ones are in a period of shloshim. Irving Abela, Suzanne Chayton, Fern Data, Veronica Mandel, Valerie Packer, Leah Plum Papernick, Ruth Shirkin, and Barry Zelechov. Are there any names to be added or repronounced? As a community, we stand at this time on page 142 for the Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחיי חון וביומי חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברוך הוא. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and together v'nomar we say amen.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. We remain standing for Kiddush, page 439. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu v'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat koresho be'achava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemahaseh v'reshit. כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר לצייר מצרים. קיוונו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל החמים, ושבר קודשך באחווה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. לחיים.
So in the Barashel K family tradition, oh my gosh, what a beautiful challah, as we sing the Chamotzi together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam,
המוציא לחם מן הארץ בתיאבון. שבת שלום. יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, שבת שלום. יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, שבת שלום. שבת שלום. שבת שלום. שבת שלום. שבת שלום. שבת שלום.
Shabbat Shalom.
שכוח.
Well done.